The Braying Donkey by Vernon. Once upon a time, a wise old owl observed a sad condition in the forest and jungle. He saw that the wild creatures of the jungle were fighting fiercely among themselves. Wishing to teach them a better way of life, he called the quarrelling creatures together to hear his wisdom for attaining both personal and social happiness. So all the creatures, great and small, came to hear the kindly counsel of the wise old owl. There came the savage tiger, and the timid rabbit, and the quiet deer, and in flew the majestic eagle, and a shy sparrow, and a mysterious raven. And swimming close to shore was a giant whale, and a slender shark, and a colourful salmon. And finally there arrived another creature, a braying donkey. The donkey arrived late and stationed himself at the back of the audience. He maintained a peculiarly unnatural expression on his face and in his manner. His strange appearance was an odd combination of dullness, nervousness, arrogance, and insolence. The wise old owl walked in front of the assembled wild creatures and began his lecture. He told the birds and the beasts about spiritual truths, about self-decency, and about goodness and harmony. He showed them how each could live in peace within himself and so live at peace with others. He urged them to be honest with themselves and to see how they had been captured and punished by self-ignorance and self-deception. He assured them that with sincere work on their inner natures, they could change their very natures and so receive the rich reward of a peaceful and pleasant life. Though the wise old owl spoke with firmness and conviction, he did not condemn the creatures for their foolish antagonism toward each other. Instead, he explained to them that they lived under a strange kind of hypnosis which made them believe that they had to fight and hurt each other. The wise old owl made it clear that the only real enemy was self-ignorance, and that this need not be a permanent problem, for healing self-insight was possible. He declared that receptivity to truth was the powerful and lasting cure for personal and social conflict. To encourage the wild creatures, the wise old owl assured them that a higher power would help and guide them all the way to a new and natural and beautiful life. As the wise old owl went on with his lecture, he observed the reactions of the wild creatures in front of him. He noticed in particular the responses of the braying donkey. The wise old owl noticed that every minute or two the donkey would stamp his foot or twist his mouth or jerk violently. Since the wise old owl was an expert in understanding donkey nature, he saw clearly that the braying donkey was boiling with rage toward the truths he was hearing. As the wise old owl ended his lecture, a reverent silence fell over the creatures. The lecture had been filled with such great beauty and wisdom that they wanted to rest with it for a moment, which they did. The wise old owl then opened the meeting to general discussion, inviting the creatures to ask any questions they liked. Instantly, up shot the hoof of the braying donkey, and then he started to bray. His loud and obnoxious braying filled the atmosphere, so startling the other creatures that they turned around to see what was happening. And what was happening was that the donkey, with his face contorted with rage, was braying out one bray after another to the wise old owl. And the violent donkey never stopped braying out rude and childish remarks for the next half hour. Here are a few of his brays. Bray 1, in a sarcastic manner. Do you practice what you preach? Bray 2. I didn't understand a single thing you said, which proves that you have a confused mind. Bray 3. Since I have a completely peaceful nature and possess perfect mental health, You wasted my time in calling me here. Bray 4, with sour accusation. Everything you said was so gloomy and negative. Why don't you show us a loving spirit? Bray 5, I never heard of you before coming here. If you're so wise, how come nobody knows about you? Bray 6, you barely mentioned the subject of sex. Are you so sexually mixed up that you don't want to talk about it? Bray 7, while smirking with self-satisfaction. Maybe some of the stupid creatures here were taken in by you, but I saw through you from the start. Bray 8, by what authority do you tell us what to do? What is your educational background? What are your degrees? Bray 9, frankly, I think you're a supreme egotist who just wants to show off how many books you've read. Bray 10, with a sneer, how much money are you making out of all this? Bray 11, I listened to you for an entire hour and you never gave me anything I didn't already know. Bray 12, you seem to say that you're the only one on earth who knows the truth. What arrogant nonsense. Bray 13, with snarling, you have a lot of nerve saying that most creatures are smouldering volcanoes of hatred. Well, I'm not one of them. Bray 14, who are you to tell me how to live my life? I have my own independent path to love and beauty. Bray 15, I don't like the way you handle an audience. You should take the same course in public speaking that I did. Bray 16, in a rude and insolent manner, you talked a lot about charlatans. What kind of a charlatan are you? Bray 17, why don't you talk about practical things like money and sports and entertainment? Bray 18, you urged us to become awake and aware. That's been my way of life all my life. Perfectly awake and aware. Bray 19, with an evil glare, you seem to think that you know me better than I know myself. Where did you get this marvellous power of perception? Bray 20, your rudeness and ignorance are apparent to everyone. The braying donkey seemed to be carried along by a mechanical force that compelled him to bray endlessly, but he finally managed to come to a jerky stop, and for a few seconds he stood there, confused and nervous, as if suddenly realising where he was and what he was doing. Then, with a final bray of contempt, he turned and swiftly disappeared into the dark woods. The audience remained still and silent, each creature reflecting upon the strange scene he had witnessed. Finally, a royal lion thanked the wise old owl for giving out so much true wisdom. Next, a graceful swan asked if regular meetings might be arranged at which they could learn more about the peaceful life. Other creatures joined in the request. The wise old owl smiled and nodded in agreement. Explanations by Vernon Howard. You can see that this is a true story. We have heard these hostile brays many times at our meetings, and we will hear them again. A lost human being is boringly repetitious and unoriginal. The braying donkey represents a human being who is incapable of hearing anything above the brazen braying of his own mental sickness. Whipped along by his neurosis, he is forced to reject anything that is unlike his own dark nature, and forced to hate anyone who exposes his actual violent condition. Unable to understand that a truthful person is his best friend, the only answer he knows to a threat to his egotism is to lash out with raving cruelty. And, of course, he never cares whom he hurts. Deliberate lies are his most valuable weapons, which means that he himself possesses the very evils he attributes to a teacher of truth. He appears to be asking questions, But the last thing he wants is right answers, for they would make him wrong. He simply uses the opportunity to relieve his inner violence with an outer expression of that violence. A foolish human donkey never sees himself as foolish, which is both his problem and his pain. In his delirious imagination, he pictures himself as intelligent and bold, always knowing more than everyone else. And the less he knows, the louder he brays. When his fantasies are exposed by realities, he falls into fierce fear, for he wrongly believes that his real nature is under attack, when in fact it is his illusory nature that is being exposed. A human donkey cannot see how he gives himself away with his very braying, how he makes a fool of himself in front of others. Take bray number 4, in which the wise old owl is accused of being negative. It is the donkey himself who is gloomy and negative, but he refuses to see himself as he actually is. A human donkey, whether male or female, lacks the humility and the intelligence to listen to the facts which could save him from himself. He fights anyone who comes too close to what he is hiding. He angrily rejects knowledge and decency, leaving himself with no alternative but to fall deeper into miserable self-injury. So he departs from the light to return to the dark jungle of his own deceit, never attaining the good life he could have had. We can be wiser. We can learn to listen to something higher and brighter than our usual nature. We can be receptive to real revelations. Then one day, liberty and happiness will appear before us. Then all is new and all is well. Use the braying donkey for personal development. You may be surprised at the following statement regarding the braying donkey. It contains hundreds of rich lessons for you to discover and apply for your own spiritual advancement. Do this. Read the story 2 or 3 times. Then write down your own discoveries. See how many you can find. Write them down in a single sentence or 2 and study them with practical pleasure. Here are 5 examples. 1. A refusal of truth produces fear, anger, arrogance, and confusion, while receptivity to truth erases these painful emotions. 2. Inner liberty is available to anyone who wants it. 3. Badness has a compulsive need to attack goodness, but it deceitfully does so in the name of goodness. 4. We must listen to something higher than our usual ideas. 5. A lost person believes that truth is trying to rob him of something valuable, when it only wants to take away his pain. Within this short story is the complete map by which any human being can journey from the dark jungle to the sunny meadow. Send copies to friends who want the answers to life.